What's good, YouTube? We got video from the dog, Pave Lover. You know what I'm saying? As always, gonna prefer a little light. Us, we got what JJK understands about fights that anime doesn't. I love the exaggerated swagger on the title. This is a similar video, I'm assuming, to Pintus Here's video on like the choreography in anime and the difference between like the choreography and like fights that are kind of hyped up and it's just like a lot of action and power. It's similar to like AP versus DC. The startup capacity is always going to look way cooler, but that attack potency is like the more concentrated. So comparing that, I think that's the difference between a strategic / technical fight versus like a flashy fight. A technical fight, people who really know ball will look at that and go, "Oh, that's tough." You feel me? But a flashy fight is what's going to bring more eyes. So not a lot of anime will choose a technical fight over a flashy fight. But without further ado, it's main man Sly. Once again, sliding onto your timeline. And without further ado, slide straight into it. Talk to me.
Coolest parts of anime. In the past couple of years, we've been witnessing a fighting revolution. Tons of series showcasing some of the most epic battles in anime history. Iconic moments that have been living rent-free inside our heads long after the series ended.
Yeah.
But in the middle of all that, there's been one anime that has consistently made everyone lose their mind over every single fight. And that's Jujutsu Kaisen.
Shout out Mappa.
Now, sure, the animation is absolutely gorgeous, but there are plenty of other anime out there with equally stunning visuals that don't even come close to this quality. So the real question is, why? What is it about Jujutsu Kaisen's fights that makes them stand out so much in a genre that's already packed with incredible action?
W intro.
Second form.
I want to start with the shonen series that kind of changed how we think about anime fights. Demon Slayer. Specifically, the Rengoku versus Akaza fight, which is probably the perfect example of this. Akaza is this top 3 demon, while Rengoku is one of the strongest demon slayers. In terms of power, they're pretty close. But the problem is that demons' bodies are way more resistant than humans' bodies. Akaza is just going ham on Rengoku, but his real goal is to turn him into a demon. All he has to do is accept. And yet, even though he's getting annihilated, Rengoku absolutely refuses because it would betray everything he stands for. He keeps fighting, but in the
Hayaku could learn something from that.
end, just isn't enough. Obviously, the animation is insane, but it's about way more than that. It's about Rengoku's absolutely unbreakable spirit. The way he refuses to give up even when he's clearly outmatched. The moment he holds Akaza in place while protecting everyone behind him. The final attack accompanied by some of the most epic music in the entire series.
It gave him goosebumps.
The flashback that shows you his backstory and his big smile as he draws his final breath. This is kind of Demon Slayer's whole thing. It doesn't want you thinking about the mechanics or the strategy. It wants you to feel feelings.
Yeah. Hey!
We have one of the most legendary anime fights of all time. Goku versus Frieza. Goku is getting his butt absolutely handed to him. He tries everything and it just does not work.
Not enough.
But then Frieza makes a big mistake. He kills Krillin right there. Goku's best friend since they were kids. There's nothing he can do to stop it. Goku's rage explodes. His hair turns yellow. Lightning starts cracking everywhere. The entire freaking planet is shaking. He becomes the legendary Super Saiyan for the first time. This fight is so iconic. He becomes the...
You see where Gohan get in? I can hear the Piccolo music in the back. That's that same pose Gohan hit. Come on, bro.
Legendary Super Saiyan for the first time. This fight is so iconic that people who've never even watched Dragon Ball know about Super Saiyan. I mean, you could show this fight scene to someone's dog and they'd probably think it's cool. No smart plan defeated Frieza. Just anger turned into power. From that point on, the actual fighting is just Goku demolishing Frieza. But what makes it
because Goku's a martial artist, but prior, Frieza had a power advantage, so technique doesn't matter. Technique can equalize stats. It's just like how experience in a fight can equalize stats. Like, if your opponent is faster and stronger than you, but you're strong enough to deal damage and fast enough to avoid their damage, and you have technique, then all of these stat advantages they have mean nothing. It's the same reason people like Batman can box with people like Bane. Same reason someone like Batman can box Superman. Is it realistic? Probably not. Because with the feats of speed some of these characters have, they shouldn't be getting perception blitz. But the idea is with the Kryptonite Jones, Now you have to box me mano a mano. Once his first punch lands, your powers are getting weakened. And besides that, the radiation is weakening your powers as we speak. You feel me? And now, even though your stats are still higher, powers are not. Because you still have a little bit of that in the tank. We're now relative, and I have the fighting experience. You feel me? So once Goku actually got power that was relative, if not so greater, which I think the fight shows that like it was a role reversal. But Goku still using technique was showing free. It was like spitting on everything Frieza stood for. Army, power behind numbers, power behind numbers, like in terms of the scouter, power through fear, while Goku's power was through technique, relentless training. What Master Roshi said, train hard, eat good, and rest well. That's what Goku's strength was built on. So even when he's so much stronger than you, he's going to give you respect of a warrior, and I'm going to whoop that ass. You feel me? That's the same way he was fighting Moro, and it's no from the manga, he was like, have you ever trained before? And Goku would disrespect you without you knowing it.
Forgettable is all the drama behind it, turning the situation around. The look of pure terror in Frieza's eyes when he realizes he messed up. The satisfaction of finally seeing the underdog overpower the villain. These are the elements that define Dragon Ball battles, and they just hit you super hard.
Peak.
Luffy versus Katakuri is easily one of the greatest fights in all of One Piece. At the start, Katakuri is better than Luffy at literally everything. You can see what Luffy's gonna do before Luffy even knows what he's gonna do. He's faster, stronger, more experienced. The dude is just objectively superior. But every time Katakuri knocks him down, Luffy just
continues
keeps
to
getting
get back up.
And he does this so many times that he slowly gets to the same level as his opponent until he wins. The most important moment in this fight isn't some smart strategy. It's Luffy standing back up when anyone else.
Mind you, since pre-time skip, Moria. I said Moria? That is his name. How are you still getting back up? Comes out of being 2D squished to paper. Because rubber always bounces back.
Would have stayed down. It's the moment where we see Katakuri's past and how he's become the person he is now. It's the moment he literally hurts himself and finally reveals his face because he sees Luffy as an equal and respects him. The fight doesn't end with some crazy massive punch. It ends with Katakuri asking Luffy if he's gonna come back. And once he says he will, Katakuri falls on his back for the first time in his life, accepting that Luffy has earned this victory. Sure, One Piece definitely has some strategic moments during fights, especially early on when characters didn't have access to all those bunch of different powers. But
especially Luffy, his bag, Gum Gum Pistol, Gum Gum Gatling, Gum Gum UFO, Gum Gum Pinwheel, Gum Gum Bazooka. His bag is just so like, you know, the Gum Gum Rifle joint with the bell against a nail. He's a very versatile fighter.
Mostly, it's about characters breaking through their limits. And usually by the time a major
there's
fight
something
even
behind
happens, the series has already
more
spent
than the fight
dozens of episodes making you care about it so much.
Yeah.
You know, people often criticize me for saying soul leveling is bad. Come on, guys. It's horrible. But listen, when it comes to pure hype,
come on, guys. It's horrible. It's good. The manga did really well. I read the manga, or like manhwa. It's pretty good. It's just like, the ability, like characters being memorable, the emotions through scenes aren't always there. Anything involving the main character and like select members of the main cast, emotions are there. But it doesn't give you enough time to like get attached to characters. I don't want to say it's a one-dimensional story because there's certain aspects to it, but it's not. It's the same way like the peak of 2-dimension is never touching the lowest of 3-dimension, right? It's more of like compared to other stories, it is like peak in the aspects it's good at, but because it's missing some other aspects, you're not gonna sit here and say like, oh, it has potential to be the greatest of all time. It is gonna be a good watch though. It's just like Gurren Lagann for me, anime like that, even anime like Cannon Busters, I would say are in my top 5, but I'm not talking about my top 5 like greatest anime. Top 5 like they made me feel good. Like I love the spirit behind it. Hinomaru Sumo, Haikyuu, Bungo Stray Dogs. Like it means something to me. That's a good story. Very multifaceted. But in certain areas, it doesn't hit where shows like Naruto does, because Naruto does good characterization. Naruto has good fights, has good battle IQ moments. It has a good world building. It hits on so many different levels, and it makes sure you're connected to every character, to the point where it's like you compare something like Naruto to one of those shows like Gurren Lagann. Even though Gurren Lagann is like my top one, if we're talking like not just anime that's good for the general public, it's like my top one in terms of as a narrative. Even comparing those two and going like, what's the better one? You'd have to say Naruto. You feel me? But yeah, I wouldn't say it's the worst. I wouldn't say it's trash, but like it's not. This is my first anime type of watch, because it'll prime you, and it does sound like I'm indirectly calling it trash, but it'll prime you when you watch stuff like Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, to go, oh, this story's so fire. JoJo's, it'll prime you to enjoy those shows even more.
I genuinely think there are almost no anime that can touch this thing. I mean, this is like the only series where the power system is boring, the characters are boring, there isn't a millisecond of tactics or strategy because the protagonist always gets saved by some random.
Not true. Not true. That they want us to perceive that as strategy or tactics, like what he's doing there.
Video game system, but you cannot tell me that these fights are not some of the most epic beatdowns you've ever.
The show's really good at catching your attention and like giving you tunnel vision, and not in a bad way, but it wants you to focus on this one thing so much, and not in a way where like the entire show is focused on that one thing too much, but the narrative is tunnel vision. Like if you stop and look around at everything, it's like, oh, this show is not really giving me anything. But from the second you go in, the whole point is for them to suck you into like, yeah, this nigga's ass. He gets his butt whooped. He's terrible, but he got heart. And then just keep tunnel vision, tunnel vision, tunnel vision. Oh, dungeon. Oh, new boss. Oh, guild. Oh, rank. It has you worried about these things that like they're going to tackle. So if you're really watching it to watch it, it's a thrill ride. You're always like, oh, this is actually tough. But when you do kind of take the tunnel vision away and like look around at certain points, it's like, it could be better.
See, that would be pure copium. Listen, I know I'm a hater, but I'm not blind. Anime's usual approach to fights is awesome for most stories. I mean, this way of doing things has given us some of the most iconic moments in anime history. There are fists, transformations, emotional breakthroughs, crazy displays of power. Fights where how the moment feels is the most important thing, where victory comes from digging deeper.
I remember being in a hotel watching Naruto Shippuden and like getting so hyped. This was so many years ago. Getting so hyped that Konohamaru would be the pain, bro.
Harder and refusing to give up. When people talk about these fights, they remember crying during Rengoku's death. They remember the goosebumps when Goku's hair turned gold. They remember the insanity of Jinwoo's attacks. They remember the hype and the emotional peak. The objective is to create all of this with character development, crazy moves, music, the character who digs deeper, who refuses to give up, who fights for something bigger than themselves.
Oh, that can go, boy. How can they just kill people so like harshly? You speak out of turn one more time, and that blind bitch over there is gonna die. And then go to
the person who wins. And that can be extremely inspiring, because those are things that we want to do, and that's what we can relate to these characters. But here's the thing, this approach to fight can also have some pretty big downsides. The truth is, emotional peaks are powerful, but they don't last forever. You can only pull the dig deeper and fight.
And when the emotion is out of it, or if the like trope is too repetitive, then it's no longer cool. And that's why shows like Hamatora, Bungo, shows like those, even like Baki, even though there's like always an like ass pull in Baki, it's fun to like try to guess what that ass pull will be. You know, it's like people say about like The Flash. Like, it got too repetitive, and after, like, especially towards the later seasons, the emotions in the story building is not there. And because the fights have the same premise almost every time, now that the story and the emotions aren't there, and that nostalgia isn't there, I have no reason to watch this. So it's like, relying heavily on, like, emotional impact or build-up. If I were to, for 1 second, forget the build-up, this episode doesn't hit no more. You get what I'm saying? If I'm not watching this as a weekly anime, and I have to make a choice to continue to watch it, damn, they did the same thing 3 different times. This shit kind of getting boring. Like, you get what I'm saying? It'll actually hit you.
Strength card so many times before it starts losing its,
value.
Flavor. When every major fight ends with a willpower breakthrough, it becomes
like,
kind of predictable.
okay,
You know that
bro,
when things look really bad, the hero is gonna unlock
Clutch
something
up.
new, and the tension just kind of disappears because you've seen this script before.
Because you know where it's
On top
gonna
of
go.
that, your
It
enjoyment
gets
of
rid
the
of the
fight
suspense.
strongly depends on things that don't happen during the fight necessarily. A lot of these fights hit hard because you know about the characters, what they've gone through, and who they are. If
what
the
they're
story
willing
isn't
to
super
do.
interesting, you might get fights that look good, but that's kind of it. On the other hand, Jujutsu Kaisen has been going in a different direction.
Top tier IQ, bro.
Don't get me wrong,
Stop
there are
playing with
definitely a
Toto.
lot of hype moments, but there's a secret ingredient that makes things a little more interesting. And I think it's the secret ingredient that's made everyone love these fights. One of my favorite examples is Yuji versus Shozo. Shozo has an ability that can basically turn his blood into whatever he wants. Right off the bat, he's trying to keep Yuji at a distance by firing a super fast arrow. Yuji almost loses an arm blocking the first shot, only surviving because he twisted his body at the last possible second. He notices the patterns and tries different strategies. Shozo is not an idiot. He beats Yuji in every single way and even anticipates some of his moves. He shapes his blood into a blade and puts it straight through Yuji's foot to pin him down. Yuji manages to get away, but he now has a hole in his arm and his foot. It's not looking good. He knows he can't continue fighting like this. But suddenly, his ally tells him that this technique has a weakness. Water. And Yuji immediately comes up with a plan. He runs into a public bathroom, starts the water alarms, and forces the fight into this new environment. Chozo follows him in.
He can't use projectiles. Now you got a box.
Walked into a trap. And sure enough, when Chozo tries to use his technique again, it doesn't work. The fight turns into a classic martial arts showdown. For a second there, it looks like Yuji is going to win. But Chozo's not done yet. He reveals another trick. He has secretly hidden some of the blood in his clothes earlier to keep it dry. He flicks this concealed weapon straight into Yuji. They engage in a final close quarters exchange, but Yuji ultimately loses because Chozo managed to predict what he was going to do. This fight is honestly a perfect example of strategy. Using the environment, figuring out your enemy's technique, feinting. It shows JJK's realistic approach, where even a brawler like Yuji has to think strategically at every step. Every single move they make has a smart reason behind it. Sukuna versus Mahoraga is one of the most visually insane fights in the entire series, but it's also way more than that. Mahoraga is this creature who's kind of impossible to beat. It adapts to literally anything after seeing it once. For example, you hit it with fire, that wheel above its head turns, and boom, now it's immune to fire, and it's like nothing ever happened. So how the heck do you beat something that adapts to everything you do while you're fighting it? That's the problem Sukuna has to solve. If you haven't seen JJK, this is basically a bad guy who takes control of the main character's body. Cool. Sukuna doesn't just brute force his way through this. He definitely does a lot of that, but he also watches. He observes. He counts. He's literally studying mid-fight.
How long it takes,
Sukuna starts using a slashing move over and over. And to defend itself, Mahoraga starts punching those slashes whenever it sees that move coming. Kind of like using its arms as a shield.
And then he hits him with a feint.
Sukuna uses the same motion without actually firing a slash. It was a feint. And Mahoraga punches empty air because it's so used to it. And here's the crazy part. Later in the fight, Mahoraga lands a devastating attack, not because it was lucky, but because it also used a fake punch as a feint. It learned from
adapted to the feint.
Adapted and used his own tactic against him. Insanity. Oh wait, it's not over. Sukuna realizes that Mahoraga's adaptation takes a bit of time, and if he can overwhelm it faster than it can adapt, he might be able to win. So what does he do? He unleashes his most powerful technique, Domain Expansion. This ability slices everything inside a very large area. It's not one big attack that Mahoraga can adapt to. It's thousands of attacks per second, and it works perfectly. Before Mahoraga can regenerate or adjust to this, Sukuna finishes it off.
Yeah, I was about to say, you better hit them with that Fuga too.
Sure, Sukuna is super strong, but his victory was about understanding his enemy and creating the perfect counter strategy. On the surface, this definitely looks like your typical epic battle, but when you actually break it down, this fight is a masterclass in problem solving. And finally, a few episodes later, we get Yuji and Todo versus Mahito, which is easily one of people's favorite.
So you could have even included him and Todo versus Hanami
fights in the entire series. Mahito is this guy with a technique where basically, if he touches you, you turn into one of these things. So one touch,
and he can control those.
Up until now, Mahito has been destroying Yuji in their 1v1, and that's when Todo
shows up. No soul. Also,
now Mahito has been destroyed.
I like that animation design. Notice how he's almost the same color as Mahito. They're not exactly the same color, but it's showing you how he's like pale here. The lighting is no different, but notice the use of colors.
They're 1v1. And that's when Todo shows up. His curse technique is called Boogie Woogie. He claps his hands to swap the position of any two things. Sounds pretty basic. At first, Todo claps his hands to switch his body with anything that's around him. It's a pretty classic way of using his power. But the interesting part starts when Yuji joins the fight. At that point, Todo starts to swap with him as well. And that's when we see some of the coolest and most unpredictable moves in the fight, such as Yuji throwing a stone and Todo swapping himself with the stone to throw a brutal kick with the speed created. After some time, he even starts clapping without actually swapping, just to mess with Mahito's timing.
Like
the enemy will dodge in one direction, expecting a swap, and nothing happens. So Todo will clap and swap himself with a random piece of rubble instead of Yuji, creating this unexpected angle of attack. The technique becomes this constant psychological warfare, where Mahito can never be sure if a clap means an actual swap
or just a
bluff. And then we get to the moment that made the entire JJK community collectively lose their mind. Mahito uses his domain expansion so quickly that Yuji and Todo literally can't react. This tiny moment lets Mahito touch Todo's hand, which activates his ability. Todo,
did he say Toji earlier?
This tiny moment lets an expansion so quickly that Yuji and Todo literally can't react. Mahito uses his domain expansion so quickly that Yuji and Todo literally can't react. This tiny moment lets Mahito touch Todo's hand, which activates.
I thought he said Toji, and it like cooked my brain.
Todo is about to die, but before it spreads to the rest of his body, he chops off his own hand without hesitation. He then slaps Mahito's hand with his other hand to trigger one final Boogie Woogie, positioning Yuji perfectly for a punch. This is a battle about outsmarting your opponent and perfectly synchronizing your attacks, rather than just overpowering them with strength. These fights are about understanding the opponent's techniques, identifying weaknesses in their abilities, exploiting the rules of the power system, and adapting faster than they can adapt. There's a good reason JJK fights are some of the most talked about battles in the entire anime and manga community.
That's where the tension comes from too.
Expects you to actually pay.
Even when there's a power clip, it is still life or death. If someone has some OP ability, man, you're cooked. Like Mahito, weak, like physically and stuff. But like with his ability, he's tough. So it's like, oh, you put him against like a top tier special grade. Oh, that's cool. But if I touch you one time, you're dead. There's still that suspense.
Pay attention because there are so many small decisions being made during a fight. You can rewatch a battle and notice details and strategic moves that you hadn't seen before. The tension doesn't come from will the hero find the strength to win. It comes from how the heck is the hero going to solve this problem. And that feels completely different, in my opinion. The series makes you feel good for actually understanding its fights, and there's this genuine satisfaction that comes from just getting it. When people talk about strategic fights, they remember the tactics. They remember the oh my goodness moments where the
and that's long term. That's different from like just something being purely hype. There's another reason I mess with Fairy Tail. A lot of stuff that's done in that show is hype that gets you to like get attached to the characters, but there's IQ in Fairy Tail. Like shit. People throwing fire off the ground. Gray and then Leon. Gray and Leon fighting with the speed ability. There's IQ in it. Like
character does something so smart they didn't even think that was a possibility. Here's the question.
That's where tactics really come in handy though. If you're able to keep the hype and the suspense and stuff. It's just like any other like show where it keeps you tunnel vision, but that tunnel vision stops you from seeing like them doing that IQ choice like was obvious, but you just couldn't see it. So when they come up with it, no matter how smart or like dumb you are, how like veteran you are at understanding fights, because of the tunnel vision that comes with the hype and the investment, when they pull that shit off, it's still gonna look crazy. It's still gonna be gold, bro. And you're always going to remember that feeling, not because the hype was there, the tension was there, this is where it mattered, but because it happened and you couldn't fathom it. So now it's a moment in your head like, dang, bro, the darndest thing happened. I didn't expect it to go like that. That's where it hits you. That's where it sticks.
Which of these two approaches is better? Well, if you want to find that provides all the hype and emotional release possible, then the first approach is awesome. If you want a fight that has strategy,
he said awesome and not better.
The second approach can be a great choice. Neither of those two is automatic.
There's a lot of other anime that do stuff similar, like Soul Eater is another good pick for this as well.
Automatically better because at their core, they're all trying to do the same thing, make you feel something. But in that case, why do so many people enjoy JJK's fights specifically? I mean,
it's the
this is
tactics.
definitely not the only
The
series
animation
that
is
has
really good
strategy to
too.
its battles. Well,
like, again, when the animation is lower, there's less they can do, but also the creativity is like less there. But like when you get a fight where it's like, oh, this dude threw a punch, and then he knew the dude was gonna counter, so he bent his wrist slightly, which allowed him to parry the coming attack. You're not gonna get that from a show with not as good of animation. You know, even if that's what happened, sometimes it's skipped over, sometimes it happens too quickly. JJK not only has the tactics there and like in the source material, but the execution of it is done really well.
I think it's because Jujutsu Kaisen actually does both of these things. Chozo versus Yuji, Sukuna versus Mahoraga, Todo versus Makito. Sure, all these fights have strategy and tactics.
There's still hype and emotion.
They also have emotions and hype. The creators know that the strategy makes the emotions stronger. It doesn't just replace it. JJK's secret weapon is that
it's like how they say if you add a little bit of salt to something, it makes it sweeter.
It makes you think and feel at the same time. It rewards you for paying attention while still punching you in the gut. It gives you the satisfaction of solving a puzzle and the emotional release
and the
in
emotional
the
payoff
fight. Of course, the anime really elevates everything, but this is just part of the series' DNA. Most anime pick one thing as their main approach, but Jujutsu Kaisen is one of these rare series that manages to bring everything to its absolute peak. The strategy that makes the fights rewarding, the emotional investment, and the epic scale. But what makes it even more special is that it refuses to stick to just one approach. Maki versus the Zen Clan is one of the best fights of season 3, but it's not really a tactical fight at all. It's not a puzzle. It's not about using weaknesses or adapting to anything. It's mostly about Maki, who's been looked down on her entire life, absolutely destroying the clan that rejected her.
Breaking
when
those
Maki
boundaries.
one-shots her dad, casually slides on blood,
and
becomes the most powerful sorcerer of her clan with nothing but her bare fists while fucking losing his playing in the background. We're not here trying to analyze her tactics. We feel the satisfaction of her being superior. What makes JJK special is that it understands you can have battles with tactics, you can have battles with emotions, and you can have battles with both of these things. This series knows that the most important part of an anime is its story, and that the best fights are the ones that perfectly fit each specific moment of each specific part of the journey.
I agree, man. Shout out Pave Lover for another amazing video. Yeah, and as always, make sure y'all boys stay happy, healthy, and hydrated. You know it's time to catch me next. Peace.